But so that's what I'm really, really thankful for, is just, finding this team and, hopefully being a conducive part of it, growing and making
Yeah, I'm sure you will be. When I interviewed her, you guys, I was very specific about what I needed. The first and most important thing, which is, I don't want to turn this into a bitch session, so we all know what we've been going through and how challenging it's been. The first and most important thing was proactive pipeline and deadline management. Proactive meaning we're always ahead of it. Always, always, always ahead of it. There's no reason why you can't be. It just takes awareness and a focus on that. That was the first thing. The second thing, most important thing, and this is in a hierarchy for me, is establishing a really tight process for non-delegated files, for non-delegated underwriting files. I will say this again. There isn't any reason why you can't close a non-delegated file as fast as you can close a delegated file if it's done right, if it's prepared accurately, if it's turned over the way it needs to be turned over, and if it's processed the way it needs to be processed. Because we get used to this crutch that we have here with our ability. I mean, and I give Ryan credit for giving me that term. It's a crutch to be able to just go ask Kelly a question. That's a crutch, because as nice as that is, that's not how you can manage a high velocity, high producing team of production. It's not how you have a high productivity manufacturing process. And when you talk about the costs and getting our costs as low as we can, we want the lowest cost to produce that we possibly can. Why? Because then we can have the lowest prices that we possibly can, right? So the lowest cost to produce comes with an efficient, effective processing manufacturing system. And so that was the next thing, is establish a protocol and a series of systems and steps. We just don't have it. We have a file right now that we're doing our first Deep Haven loan, and a really basic set of functions that are required to submit a loan there weren't followed. And Deep Haven's like, I'm sorry, we can't have anyone look at it because we have a hard stop for this. You know why Deep Haven does that? Deep Haven does that because they don't want to clog up the frickin' system with a file that can't be decisioned, right? They need the information to be able to decision a file, right? And they can't do it. And what we do here, I think that we're all guilty of this, because, well, can you just look at it and let me know if it's going to be okay? And I don't. It's another touch, right? It's another touch in the process, and that touch costs money. And when you want to reduce your costs, labor is the biggest expense on every mortgage company's, it's the biggest expense. And the reason it gets so big, and unfortunately for Allie, she was part of the massive layoffs that Fairway did. Fairway, some really cool things about Allie that I like is she brings that Fairway Steve Jacobson, let's close the loan mentality. I love that, right? Like, you guys got an 8-day file, we'll figure it out, right? It's going to be fun that we have that mentality here, but at the same time, it comes with a level of responsibility. You got to do your job up front, and you can't do it sloppy, or that 8 days thing ain't going to happen, right? And what Fairway's bad at is just throwing people at the problem, right? We're going to hire more people. We'll just keep hiring processors, and we'll keep hiring underwriters. And then we'll do a series of 500 layoffs one month, 500 layoffs the next month, 500 layoffs the month after that. Allie was a part of that because she had moved from a role as an operations leader to an underwriting role. And she was part of the wave of, you guys remember this in 2022.
It was 2022. It was literally the week before his Friday call was, nobody needs to worry. We'll move people into other positions, and we'll rebalance teams, because everyone is freaking out because everybody's laying off, and so everyone in corporate sweating, and everyone's worried. And although I'd been with Fairway for I think 10 years at that time, or maybe, I don't know, 8 years at that time, or 9 years, I was only in underwriting for like 2.5 at that point. So I'm low on the totem pole in corporate. And that next Friday, I got a call at like 8 o'clock in the morning when I logged on. And it was like a 4-minute scripted call from somebody in corporate I've never heard of. And that was it. And it was like me and
I don't ever want to be that company,
I guess.
Yeah, I don't ever want to be that company, you guys. And
No.
we've never been that company, but So proactive pipeline management, establish the manufacturing process for a streamlined manufacturing process for non-delegated loans. And then the third one, and it's just as important as the second one, but just in terms of what we have the most of, it's establishing a streamlined process for condos so that we can be quick and accurate and efficient when it comes to getting our condo decisions done. Like, I'm not saying condo approvals, because I'm going to forward an email that came out. I shared it with Ryan this week. It came from Huntington. I don't know why I got it, because I don't think anybody else got it. It was a Wall Street Journal article that came out about condos. That's a whole nother subject that we don't need to get into today. But what I asked Allie to do today was just come on and share some of the ideas that she's had. And I think you're going to do a screen share some of the ideas that she has around what the kinds of things that she's going to be doing in tracking and pipeline managing, and the kinds of communication that she wants to establish for all of us. So you want to go ahead and share your screen, or is that probably easier, or do you want me to do it?
I think I can do it. Let me see. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Sorry, guys.
I'll do it.
I can do a bunch of other, yeah.
No, I'll do it. I've got multiple screens, so it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, I have it connected to my my monitors. Let's see here, session.
Okay. I'll let you go through this.
Yeah.
You see that all right?
Yep. I think for, one of the most important things is keeping the process going smoothly, and everyone is touching the file and following up on it every 24 to 48 hours. And we're setting these expectations up front, and there's all of these really great tools in Encompass and places where we can add dates for expiration, add loan, the loan objection alerts, the loan, the earnest or the appraisal deadline, the inspection deadline, so that we know to ask if we can order the appraisal yet before, when that inspection resolution happens, we can ask that day, all right, are we good to go? Can we order the appraisal? So that we're not delaying by any, we're not losing any time in those days. And then we're putting the order date, the expected date, and this will be more of a processing or an operation side of it, to where I keep track and watch those things, so that I can see, like, okay, loan objection is coming up on Monday and it's Thursday and we're not clear to close yet. So that's really scary, because we should be clear to close, so that's when I'll be looking, probably about 5 days before, and just start, like, writing people, like, guys, where are we at? Like, this needs to be resubmitted today before this time, so that we keep all of these files moving. And two of the places I found that are very, they're easy and they're functional are Milestone Commons. And there's pipeline views that are easily created, where you guys can just see on your dashboard, on your, on your Encompass pipeline, all these milestone comments. And so you're not calling and asking, like, what's happening? Why is this submitted yet? What are we waiting on? And your, processors are going to be touching those files every 24, 48 hours. Like, okay, I followed up on the written VOE. I sent a third request, and a second request, I'm involving the loan officer. And then a third request, here's involving an agent.
Can you see the milestone comments example that I just put in the screen, or no?
I can't see it.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to show that one as well, because I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah. And so that's a snapshot of one in the file, like when I went into Encompass. But there's a field on the pipeline views where you can see the very first row, like where it's 110 or whatever. And when you hover over it, you'll be able to see all of them. But that just gives a quick timeline of this is like a processing milestone comment. This is where the processors would be updating it throughout the file. And, I can see, like, she did her initial review on 12/7. And then, Ezra, I'm on the phone, baby. Yeah, Karen, sorry. Sorry. Ezra, please. Would you? Thank you. Sorry.
Don't worry, it happens.
And then 12/11, 12/8, she sent another email, and then followed up and then followed up, and she puts details in there on what she's waiting on, what she's followed up on. And so I think that's like a really easy place for everybody, can jump in a file and say, okay, awesome, I see what's going on. Your agent's calling you or something, or, a borrower's, if they're asking, you can easily, you're in the mix, and you don't have, there's no like scrambling and like, I don't know what's going on with my files. And then all of these like when they're sending those detailed emails, those can be copy and pasted into, I didn't send you an example of the conversation log. So if you need to see details and who was included on an email and what time it was sent, what date it was sent, those are pasted in the conversation log and easily accessible as well. And so that's something I'm going to work with, the processors and underwriters and closer to implement that and start working, just adding those comments to those fields. And I can, create or adjust everyone's pipeline, create a pipeline view where you can see all those comments as well. And for LOs and LOAs, I've typically seen that because if you click on the application milestone or the started milestone, you guys are able to add comments just like that to that milestone as well, and encompass and keep track of your end of things. Like, I think it helps personally on my own, like, on your own pipeline, say, what did I do last? And if they haven't been updated in 24 or 48 hours, it's keeping you, accountable for those timelines. And so that, sorry.
Any questions? Any feedback, guys? What are you doing now for milestone? Like, do you guys do any communicating in the milestones? Is that where any of that's happening right now, or no?
No, we use Pulse.
Polls?
Jungo, that's what it's called.
Pulse?
Well, Ops doesn't have access to that.
Yeah, Ops doesn't have access to
Right, and
Jingo.
this is a place where everybody that has access to the same file can go in and add a comment and update something, and everybody can access it.
Yeah.
And it
I think-
doesn't require any,
Well, and I think right now we don't have access to update the milestones. And maybe
well, it's
like I
not
think
you don't have to update the milestones. You
the
can
comments, I mean,
add
sorry.
You can add
Yeah.
comments to I think from up to application.
Okay.
Loan
Yeah,
officers should be
because I
able
think
to.
like our biggest thing, we can talk more about this. Not that I want to get into the weeds
Mhm.
with this, but just
No, I
like
wanna-
it's just like notating, like once the file is turned over where we don't have access to milestone comments, and it's like more of like one-way communication. How we do like a two-way street communication, right? Without like bombing each other with emails and Zoom chats or whatever.
Right. Well, and that's kind of the point of this too, is that you're not having to bomb with emails, and you can see your files moving in and you should be copied on, or if you want to be, included, CC'd or BCC'd on, emails, when they're working on stuff, then you can be included on those too, so you don't have to ask or anything like that. But important emails like title requests and things like that would be posted or pasted in the conversation log, so you can see the
So
full.
do the loan officers today, I don't know if you know the answer to this because I don't, but after you guys turn a file over, are you saying you can't add a comment to the milestones?
Correct.
Well, you should
You
still be
can.
able to comment on the application or like the application milestone.
Yeah, I think it's just more of like once the file's like in the underwriting and we're through like qualification and stuff like that, that we maybe like want to update the team kind of thing. We're like those started milestones may not be as important anymore.
Right. And
No.
they really aren't. And so, but it's a matter of like preference for your views. You can see, like, you can have each milestone comment section included in a view, so you can see them all.
I see.
And so that you can like pull your pipeline and see all of the processors' comments in the processing milestone, and see like the underwriters or the closers, like request to balance, or all of those things. And then another piece that I found was pretty successful with our team is the end of my old team is the end of the week, they're sending out pipeline updates in, you know, to each team with each file with an up-to-date note as of that date, what's missing, what we're waiting on, if it's been resubmitted, you know, all of those things. And that the milestone comments are also updated to match those pipeline updates just before they leave on a Friday, so that everyone goes into the weekend, you know, knowing the status of their files. If you're getting calls from agents or borrowers, or you're talking with them, that, you know, everyone's on the same page going into the weekend. And then, you know, on Monday, it's just starting, you know, we know exactly where we're starting and what we're starting with. And then something I used to do as an ops manager is I would send out a daily like operations update, which would include underwriting, processing, and closing turn times. It would include investor, like non-delegated investor turn times as of that date, a list of files that were submitted into processing and when they're due out, a list of files submitted to underwriting and when they're due out, just so everybody can, you know, is aware of how, you know, how the pipeline is moving along, and have the expectation of when their file is going to be reviewed or cleared to close, or, you know, CD balanced or docs out. And I used to also include like an actual, just a trade calendar, like a snapshot of it saying like last day to submit your refis to processing, last day to lock your refis, last day to, you know, to get an approval, and to get initial CD out. Just so you guys, like everyone would have a visual of that month, you know, and seeing what the projected goals are, and including important dates and holidays. Just so you guys get, you know, a full update from, you know, everything from processing to closing.
Proactive pipeline management, guys, this is what it looks like. It's very, you know, I think that's one of the things that we were lacking, is just being not sure about what statuses are, where things are going, what the turn times are, how long things are taking. The fact that she's going to know what the turn times are for a processing, like what the files that are turned in today, when are they going to get out? When are they going to be turned over? She has a completely different point of view as to how, and I might maybe have Jacqueline step in a little bit here and with some comments. She's had a lot of really good communication with the processors. And I'm of the opinion that our processors, if you read the processors that we have resumes, they have a lot of experience processing, a lot more than I think we think they do, or maybe a lot more than we give them credit for. And I think there's something happened here in the culture of our company between sales and operations that, first of all, I want to eliminate. I don't ever want to say sales and operations, like it's a one team, right? This is a team that we all need to work together to get this job done. We all need to feel that way. But Jacqueline, you mentioned something to me yesterday that the processors feel like they can never make a suggestion as to what a file, how did you tell me how you said it? It was something to do with the way the file got turned over versus the way they think it's going to work.
Yeah. So from what I've been seeing, their first concern is they're afraid to push back because they don't want to get yelled at by the LO. Because their concern is if they get yelled at by the LO is going to complain and they could potentially lose their job. So there's that fear already exists. And then when they have ideas around, like if they get something back from underwriting, or if that's maybe an issue, they do have ideas on how they can adjust that. And then if they get a file in that's maybe not set up correctly or not set up completely, they're afraid to kind of come back to you and be like, hey, we can't do this, but maybe we can do this, because they're afraid of getting yelled at, essentially, like, I'm the salesperson, you do what I say kind of thing. And I think we're all probably guilty of this at some time or another, where we're frustrated with something that's going on, a file that got underwritten, we don't like a condition, or the agent's on our ass about something, and so we might take that.
No, that never happens here.
No, never.
No, that never happens.
Why I never let my loan officers talk to my underwriters when I was in ops management. But that's different. So So I think that they have, because of that, that's happened in the past. I'm not saying it's happening right now. I'm not saying it's not happening right now. But I think because of that, they are now really gun shy to make those suggestions. And so they're not doing that anymore because they've not been empowered to do that or feel like their voice is even being heard when they have an idea, because they see a lot more files than you do, because they're not just processing for you. So they might know another way to structure something. They might be more familiar with a guideline or something like that. So
And
what,
that's like my idea of a, of a processing team. They're pre-underwriting the file. We should know exactly the conditions we're gonna get back, because
Yeah.
we're, and so I
and
do
I
want to
think
empower
they,
them to
Yeah.
feel confident in sending out those initial reviews and pointing out big things that, like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on here, but we missed this, and this isn't gonna work this way. Here are my suggestions. And so that way, it's like a cohesive team and everyone's working hard together. And then you guys have more confidence in your ops teams that they do know what they're doing, and they are going, they're taking charge of that file and they're owning it. And they're trying to work, I want them to feel really comfortable and confident in doing those things and
yeah.
never feel like they're going to, and so that's definitely something too, is giving them,
Well,
like,
I think what Allie has, she's been an underwriter. She's been in a role like this for a long time. What I'm wanting her to do is I'm wanting her to start spending a lot of one-on-one time. I want her to underwrite I want her to not underwrite files, but I want her to process loans here. I want her to close loans here. She's going to learn all the jobs. Allie's going to be somebody who rolls up her sleeves and just does the work. Like, she's not afraid to, like, I'll process a loan. You got to rush and we're too busy. I got it. Like, we'll get it done. And so, but at the same time, I'm going to want Allie to pay attention to how these files are coming in, because again, let's go back to what I was saying at the beginning of this. You want to have a great manufacturing process. You want to have the lowest cost to produce. You want to have the best rates on the street. Turn over files that can get a 1 or 2 touch underwrite, because that's one of her goals, is like, we want to get to where we're doing 1 and 2 touch underwrites. If you can increase the underwriter capacity, from most underwriters can barely underwrite 2 loans a day in 2025. That's a joke. Okay. But a lot of that has to do with the way those files come in, and not utilizing technology and not using best practices and not doing all of those things. But if you can get an underwriter to go from 2 loans a day to 6,
yeah.
2 loans a day to 6, you know what we don't have to do? We don't have to hire 3 or 4 more underwriters because we're doing 100 loans. We're not doing 100 loans a month,
And
right? And then
once-
have to
if
lay off
they're-
a bunch of underwriters when we slow down. Go
And
ahead.
if they're seeing files come in and they know that this processor knows what they're doing, because every file they get, the processor has this cover letter that tells a story that gives, they know what they are missing. They're giving you the exact same income calc that the underwriter comes up, or they're giving documentation if an underwriter disagrees, and we're not, there's no battles with that either. It's okay, the underwriter disagrees, we escalate and we try and figure out another way to, to go. If they don't feel comfortable approving something, that's okay. We're not gonna, drive it into them. We're just gonna escalate and, figure, or have, re-review it. But having those relationships between underwriters and processors, then we'll start to see it, the trust, and the underwriters can quickly run through a file because they know it's complete. They know that the processor did their due diligence and reviewed everything and put it, packaged it up real pretty for them and made it a quick, easy, I used to call it, when I was an underwriter, I called it grading papers. That's what it felt like all day. It's just going down a list and grading papers. But if I get a file and I don't understand what's going on and the documentation's missing, there's no explanations, that's tough to underwrite, because you're just kind of guessing and adding 500 conditions based on, a minimal documentation, and there's no backstory to a file, or there's no like, hey, this is all in the file, this is what I came up with, these are the exact things that I have requested and are missing, and the conditions should come out pretty exact to what we're submitting to them and expecting.
One of the big ahas that I've seen
Sorry,
the last couple of weeks, one of the big ahas I've seen the last couple of weeks, being a lot more involved in ops than I want to be, is we don't do, when you guys get tricky, complicated, not complicated, but not black and white income files in the system. You're not doing a very good job of telling the story. You understand what you want it to be. And so you submit it without the story of, here's how I did this. Here's why I believe it works. Here's the guideline that I'm following. That's a completely different file to underwrite than, and now that's a combination of you explaining that to your LOA, for those of you with LOAs, or you explaining it to the processor when you turn it over. So the processor can do the same thing for the underwriter. Where we get hung up is there's a gap between, a lot of the information's there, but it's not explained. And it's not, you don't tell the story. You don't make it simple. This goes back to what I used to do is, and I'm going to keep saying this until you guys get it. Make it easy for your underwriter and your processor to approve your loan by telling them everything they need to know, but don't just give them the docs and like, this works. What's your problem? It's like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, I don't understand how you came up with this number. And so I see that a lot. I see that a lot where it's just not clear about what you're trying to accomplish. And when it's not black and white. And what I mean by black and white, what I mean by black and white is straight up W-2, nothing changed for the last 2 years, black and white. Anything variable, anything bonus, overtime, commission, self-employed, make sure you explain the story. It's not that hard. It's a few minutes. It's spending 5 minutes to save 5 hours.
I think Chris was about to say this too, but I think moving forward, it'd be good for us to have a formalized sheet. You know, half of the people that are doing these things for our underwriters are not on this call, right? So, you know, I have an assistant, Chris has an assistant, Casey uses one, right? We all have these assistants that, I mean, honestly, I'm just giving free rein to the income and I'm being pulled back in if they need me. So like, we just need to like really dial in this process with our LOAs and we can train on it from there, right?
Well, and that's kind of another piece of this is I had generalized there's form, you can do it as a form or an email template. And it's, I mean, I don't know if you want to bring one of those up or whatever, I can't screen share it, but
I can.
Where an LO, there's like an email template from an LOA to the processor when they're submitting over to processing that gives where you get a chance to, you know, explain, I don't know about that. There was another one.
Hang on.
Yeah, that one's good.
But all
Sorry,
our
that one
notes
was good.
in Compass now, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like, I think a cover letter, I used to do this all the
No,
time.
that's what this is.
Yeah, like a
this
story
would-
used to be, is a lot better than just incomes, blah, blah,
Well,
blah.
no, that's what this is. You
Yeah.
pull that one back up because that was the right one. Sorry. But
This
this
one?
was this the right one? Yes.
Hello, all the way
So-
to ops.
And you can, you know, this can be detailed, like this is where you get to detail out. I calculated income and I'm waiting, you know, I'm averaging, you know, I'm using their raise over average hours. And so I got a payroll ledger and that's how I got this. And it's from this date to this date and it is exact. And but giving that story and giving that documentation, it's so much easier and so much quicker for a processor and underwriter to be able to review
This
those.
is the one that you, I think this is the one you meant.
Oh, this is one from like if a processor reviews a file and, you know, they're gonna do an initial review. And I'm gonna sit with them too. And I think you guys do something kind of similar, but it's giving, you know, like, okay, this is what I need from the borrower to submit to underwriting. Or, you know, if it's important, and then processors can make notes, comments, questions, suggestions. If there's something urgent, they're going to put urgent in the subject line, LO, please read and respond, so that, you know, those things, because a lot of times, you know, they might just be typing it out, but if they're not painting that sense of urgency, like, I see this problem, you know, and blowing it up to everybody to jump on it and review it day one instead of at suspense, you know, the day before CD needs to go, you know, something like that. I think, you know, being proactive and getting those things, making sure that everyone is, that there's a reason why there are LOs, LOAs, and then processors. It's like a sieve of review, you know, everybody is getting their eyes on it and reviewing it again and ensuring, you know, that we do have a complete file and everything is documented and explainable.
Jacqueline, you got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I would just say to the LOs and to for your LOAs, what I have seen over the last 3.5 weeks, not on every single fight, and there's not a specific loan officer, but there's not a very clear, we're not doing a good job of setting proper expectations with the client and with your agents if there's an agent involved. So I would say we need to get back into the habit of making sure that we're holding them accountable. If you're turning in a file that's missing some income docs, for example, we all know we can't underwrite or approve a file that doesn't have income docs. So there needs to be a very clear, here's what I've asked for, here's what I've told them they need to have it to me by. So that way we know that the client's been put on notice that, hey, you need to get this to me no later than end of business tomorrow. So that if you don't have it, we know there's a plan in place and it's not going 3 or 4 days past. So that's probably one of the bigger things that I saw in some of the conditions and some of the stuff's like, hey, we're still waiting, we're still waiting, we're still waiting. Be proactive. Get your insurance contact at turnover. Get your VOE contact at turnover. There's no reason for you to not have those in your files. Like you guys, we know what needs to be in these files. There's no reason for us to have questions. And then one of the other things that I talked a little bit with Kelly about is if you have a one-off thing that you're referring to, maybe a less used or more obscure guideline, grab the guideline and put it in your file with whatever the document is. And because if ultimately it's on us as the salespeople to confirm that that loan is a loan. We're not waiting on underwriting to tell us, okay, yes, this is a loan. We want to go to the underwriter and say, hey, here's the guideline. Here's how I'm interpreting it. Do you agree? That's it. And as long as you've provided the documentation, we should have no conditions on files. So we need to be better about, and Allie, I sent these to you, all of the different websites that Kelly and Heidi use to look up guidelines. Like we need to get very, very comfortable and very familiar with those. Pull your own guidelines. And if you have questions, put them into the file so the underwriter knows what you did. And if you're confused, that's when you ask the question to sales support or submitting your scenario. But that's one of the things that Kelly mentioned too, is she's not seeing enough income reviews on your funky income. So like that resource is there, we should be using it. It takes an extra day to not have a headache once you're under contract. So I would just encourage you guys to use the tools that we have. I know it's been a really stressful like 1.5 years of not a lot of business. And so we're all kind of desperate for some deals right now. But that's not an excuse to get sloppy and not hold our clients accountable and not let our agents push us around for closing dates and quick turnaround times and hey, I think this is going to work, but I've never seen the document, but here it is in underwriting. Like we need to do a good job on the front end. Like Dan Kataya, for those of you that were with Fairway with us, was like right and tight. The files that I've seen, like 50% of them, not even kind of right and tight. And so as salespeople, we really need to clean that up for us and make sure that we're because those clients are trusting us with one of the most important assets of their life, short of their family. And we need to start treating it that way again and just being a lot more proactive up front and taking the care that we know is required to take care of those clients, because you could ruin someone's life by fucking up their mortgage deal. So we need to.
Right, I don't think clients know it's urgent unless we tell them. Like, and keep it, because they don't understand those deadlines, those dates, unless we're like setting that expectation. And if we're doing a second request to their employer, we're getting them involved in saying they need to respond. And then if we're getting down to it, then the agents need to get involved and be made aware this is, and we're telling them the roadblocks that are coming, so that they're not asking and they're not like, well, what the hell? Why didn't anybody see any? Like, why is this a problem now? Because that sucks for everybody.
It's always, guys, it always comes down to, Jacqueline's right, it always comes down to proper client, setting the tone with the client, holding them accountable, setting the right expectations, and telling them what they need. The customer will do whatever you tell them to do, but you got to tell them. And, we used to say we'd like the application back within 3 days, and we were getting the application back within 3 days, sometimes 4. When we switched that to I need the application back in 24 hours, they'd be like, okay. And we got the applications back in 24 hours. So it was like, it's all us. It's like, we're the ones, we're the ones. And it's really simple. Just tell the customer, I want you to have a great experience. And so when I ask you for something, I need it now. I don't need it in a week. I need it right away. So anytime we ask you for a document, we're going to try to get it from you within 24 hours. That's the timeline that we need things by, because we need to keep this forward. I don't want any nasty last minute surprises, and this is how I can avoid them all. The sooner I can tell you you're clear to close, the sooner the stress of getting this mortgage all wrapped up goes away. And that's my goal for you. So just help me out. It's really just scripting, and we've built a relationship up front. And what's exciting and what I'm really appreciative of is that I feel a little bad myself, like we kind of lost our way here. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, when you're the loan officer who can say yes, and not the loan officer that can say no, you're the loan officer that's going to get a realtor to go like, shit, those guys did everything. When you need to move a closing up, go ahead, Ryan. When you guys need to move a closing up, we're going to try to figure out how to move your closing up. Okay. We're not going to say, no, can't do that yet. And we're going to have a way, we're going to build a process to do that. Now, you need to communicate with Allie. Like, that's where you need to go. And I need you to get to know her, right? You guys need to build a relationship with her. You need to build a relationship as a human being. Remember what I said last week, how sad it was that Lauren said that Jay was the only loan officer here that's bothered to get to know her as a person. That's sad, especially if she's your processor. I don't know who she processes for, but that's sad that she feels that way. And I thanked her for the comment, and I told her I was embarrassed because even I hadn't done that yet. I didn't get to know her as a person, and she's actually really nice, and she's pretty smart. And I think that somehow we created an environment unintentionally. We created an environment here where the processors can't speak up, and they can't tell you, hey, this isn't going to work. I can't submit it like this. I need this, this, and this. And I think what they would normally get back from you guys in a situation like that, you guys are all, you know what makes a good loan officer, by the way? Somebody who won't take no for an answer. Okay. So that's what makes a good loan officer. Let's be honest. Somebody who's willing to put up with a shit ton of rejection to win, right? Somebody who's willing to strike out 9 times to hit a home run, right? So that's what makes a good loan officer. But it can also make you into a jerk when it comes to working with your team, what you don't want to be. And if your team is saying, like, dude, this isn't going to work, your response shouldn't be submitted anyway. Your response should be, I respect what you're saying. What can we do? How can we get this done? Because if all you're going to do is go like, I don't care, just submit it. And like, okay, well, now they think, oh, I have to do whatever he says. And that's not how, you're not working as a team.
Right.
It's
Well,
a team.
that's, I want to be involved, like that email, that initial review email, and that back and forth, those conversations, be able to jump in on them and be like, okay, no, I'm going to take a look, and we're not submitting this, or, if we can get this at least by, we'll get it submitted. And, help processors and sales, get used to what minimum, documentation we should have, and what we will submit with, and what we're going to do to make the file work, but make it work smoothly and clean, and make sure we have 5 or less conditions, and make sure refis are one touches, because there's no reason that we should have conditions on refis, and
Love it. Can I make a couple
but
comments?
not holding files either. So yeah, sorry.
A couple of comments on feedback, just based on the past administration, if you will. As a loan officer, when I hear from the processor, oh, this file is really hard, like that bothers me. Like, so do you want me to just tell the client I don't want to do your loan? So just from an LO standpoint too, like, we get they're hard, but like, we're trying to like feed our family and put money on, and we're trying to get, maybe it's a new realtor that we're trying to get a deal from. Like, we get it. So like, when I hear that, it's like, well, okay, like, let's work together. Let's figure it out. I know it's hard, but I'm trying to get a deal here. So
that's good to know.
Because Kim would be like, well, let's just push the deadline back. I'm like,
no,
we don't do that.
That's a no for me. Sorry. Moving dates is a no. That's not okay.
Thank you.
Unless, but that's what those day one things, those like these streamlined processes and templates and cover letters explaining, this is our loan conditions. And I can see right away that's going to be a problem from day one. We're not waiting until 2 days before that deadline, or, the day before to move a date.
Yeah. And
we're going to know up front that everybody is going to have to do these things right away. This is the only way we're going to meet this. And of course, everyone will jump in, and, if we have that same energy coming from everybody going into it, like that everybody's working equally. Yes, they're all hard, but they're not that, they're doable, and there's ways to figure stuff out. So I think attitudes would change as well if they're getting like, an explainable, a really detailed cover letter submission to them, you know, it's easy for them to go and be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for, okay, this is easier for me to understand what is going on in this file and build on it and, you know, match up and meet guidelines and be able to point out errors instead of spinning their wheels doing day one things.
Well, I think what's important here is what Allie's telling you is on the first day that they have the file, on the first day, you have to be open to feedback on day one. It's like going, hey, those dates aren't going to work unless we get this, this, and this. You need to be ready to go back to your agents and go like, dude, I need this, this, and this for this date to work.
Yeah.
I can meet the date, but I need this, this, and this. If I don't have this, this, and this, you need to move that date. You need to be able to tell them that on the first day. You can't. I
Doing your
agree
job, you
with.
should tell them that before they write the contract, but
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
Well, those
Exactly
are
right.
things too, like,
Exactly right.
that I will be tracking in Encompass is, you know, several, you know, contract dates for sure. I'm gonna trigger like LE and CD COCs when those are triggered, cure alerts, disclosure alerts, just to ensure that we're not, you know, so we can easily see all those things and we can catch, like, we're not going to meet this loan objection deadline. It's next week and it hasn't even been disclosed or submitted to process, you know, like, you guys, what's going on with this one? Is everyone aware that, is this moving, like what? So we can catch that the day the file started, not, you know, down the line.
Not the
from
day
our
before.
standpoint, like the
Hmm?
past administration was so not good at this. So what we want is you to just close our loans on time and make it as smooth as possible.
Yeah,
on
no,
our side.
that's,
So whatever you want to do, you tell us and we'll do it.
yeah, I don't want to
You
deal, I
know?
don't like dealing with in-group bars and agents either. You know, like, and moving and closing, that's devastating to a client. And that's, you know, that's when they have
Expensive
their
to
house
us, too.
packed up in
We
an
don't do
U-Haul
it,
and we're
but-
telling them a day before that they can't move it, like, that is devastating and that is bad business. That's
But
just
whatever
not
your
okay.
feedback is to make this process smoother for everyone,
Yeah.
on the ops side, the cover letters, whatever, I think
Mhm.
we will do that. So
Okay.
thank you. And then
Well, we want to figure out a way
FYI
to
on Freddie
also.
Mac guidelines, guys, like if you have like income stuff, definitely call Freddie. They're like really helpful and they really updated their website. It's kind of like Ask Polly. You can just type in questions and it'll take you right there. So just FYI on that, before you even do a scenario review, you should call Freddie yourself. You can't call Freddie or Fannie, but definitely do all that research because their website is pretty solid now.
We're top of the hour, guys, so I'm not going to go into what I was going to cover as well. This has been really great, Allie. Thank you. And again, guys, I want to encourage you. Take your ops team out to lunch sometime. Take your processor to lunch. Get to know him as a human being. Take Allie to lunch. Get to know him. She's going to be a huge partner in your success and in this business. And you know, a moniker, you know, a new saying that we need to implement here in our own minds for every file going forward: invest 5 to save 5. Invest 5 minutes up front to save 5 hours on the back. Take 5 minutes to completely document your income and tell the story so that you can show that we're not coming back to you going, dude, the income doesn't work. It's like, yes, it does. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense the way you turned it in. What is this? Right.
Well, I'm
And so
happy to
make
answer
it
questions or take, you know, look at things too as well. If it's, you know, like we're trying to steal this deal and this income is quirky or questionable, or, you know, how do you think we should, you know, more than happy to take a look at things as well.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Allie. I appreciate it. This was great. Good luck on all your picks and have a great day, everybody. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Allie.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Allie.
Nice to meet everybody.